Okay, this is a little tour of our two newest toys for the mechatronics program. What we're looking at is Factory I/O, and then we also have WonderWare. Factory I/O is a virtual factory, and what it lets you do is you can program it from PLC. So what we have beneath our factory is a Siemens S1200 PLC, and this has the full program, and this runs the factory after you program it. So we have a full program that's doing all the work for us. And what we have over here, WonderWare, is an HMI SCADA system, and this is going to monitor what's going on with our factory. And then over here, our platform for the PLCs, what we have is both a Siemens, this is the S1200 that we're running right now, but this is also an Allen Bradley 1100, and we can use either one of these PLCs with both the Factory I/O and the WonderWare. We just happen to be hooked up to the Siemens unit right now. And the really good thing about this is we don't really need a lot of input-output. Everything is taken care of through the Ethernet. So all the communication is set up, and it's done in the Factory I/O so that all the signals come from the PLC, go to the Factory I/O, and then those same signals from the PLC are monitored by the WonderWare. And they should play together nicely, so let's take a look. And right now what we're going to do is we're going to set it up so that we're going to start our program, and hopefully the monitor isn't too shiny so you can see something. But we're going to actually run it, and we can start and stop here. Then we're going to have our total box count, and you can see, and this isn't best set up, but you can see what happens. This emitter is when we send a new box onto the conveyor, and this is the entry conveyor. And then we have a system of high box, low box. And if we pan back over to the Factory I/O, the high boxes, or the tall boxes, will go up in the screen or towards the left, and the low boxes will come down to the bottom of the screen or towards the right. And this just has an overall start and stop, but we also have the same start and stop mechanism on the WonderWare, and we're going to do that. Now on the Factory I/O we just count the total boxes, but here we're going to break it down into the high boxes and the low boxes. So we're going to hit the start over here, and then we're going to quickly pan over to the Factory I/O and to watch what's happening. So here we go to start, and then it drops the box on the conveyor, and what we're in is fast mode, so it'll send boxes at a high rate. Now it sends more high boxes than not, but what happens is we send boxes, and then when it gets to this diverter, the entry conveyor stops long enough for it to decide whether it is a high box and it goes left or up in the screen, or whether it's a low box and goes right. Because we can't have the input conveyor running while it's making that decision. It gets jammed up. Now here we have some small boxes. They'll come down on the screen or go to the right. And you can see that happening. And right here we can see that we've done a total of 4 boxes. And again, we'll take a look here, and this is all of the control is happening inside the Siemens PLC, and this is going to tell us whether we're transporting to the left or transporting to the right, and all the controls are happening in here in the PLC. So it's not just the virtual machine, we're actually running it from the PLC. And if we go back over to our WonderWare setup and take a look at that, we have our little count, and we can count the total number of boxes, how many high boxes and how many low boxes. This will give us some status of, when a box is appearing on the conveyor belt, and as soon as one appears, the conveyor starts running. So those two turn on simultaneously. The load diverter is when it's moved from the conveyor onto that diverter, and then it makes the decision whether it transfers right or transfers left. Now this setup is kind of difficult to see or to kind of understand what's going on. So we have a monitor, which doesn't really clarify things, but this kind of shows in the picture what's happening. So when a box appears on the emitter and it goes onto the conveyor, when it gets to the diverter, the conveyor turns off, and then it'll either transfer to the right or transfer to the left, depending on if it's a high box or a low box. And then when we get to the end, it kind of removes the box, which is kind of this magic make the box disappear. Now you can add some more conveyor storage onto that, but we're not set up for that right now. So you can see in here more of a graphic display, and this is helpful for determining whether the program is doing what you want. It's probably really hard to understand it just looking at this type of frame, what's going on, but if you actually have programmed it, you can kind of visualize what's turning on and what's turning off, and you can get an idea of whether it's running correctly. And back here is our main panel. Now, if we go on here, we can also stop it. And if we go back here, and we'll just stop it for a second, what happens when we stop it is whatever is past the diverter will have to go to the finish, but what's on the conveyor stops, and it stops until we start again. So right now, as soon as this one box passes, I'm going to turn it off. So now we've hit stop, and now that box is going to go to completion. There's the little remover thing that does the magic disappearing act. And now it's going to stay in this condition until I hit start again. And when I hit start, it'll start up just as normal, and we'll just keep going on the conveyor system. And the control of the WonderWare, controlling both the factory I/O and the PLC. So this is a nice little monitor and control system that we have. Now we can also do the same thing for turning it on and turning it off right here, locally. So we have the local control, and then we have the HMI or SCADA interface where we can do the same thing. And with the WonderWare, we just get a little further status. And if we zoom in here, this says we've done about 43 boxes. If we pan over to the WonderWare, we can hopefully see that it says 44 now. But it gives us more visibility as to what's happening with what conveyors are on, when the boxes are transferring high or low, and also the total number of boxes. And again, if we go into this monitor, confusing as it looks right now, it does give some visibility as to how the system is operating. And you know, this page here needs to kind of be cleared up to I don't know, make a little more sense. But this main page is kind of nice for determining what's going on. And then again, if we pan over here, we can get a pretty good visual of how the system is operating. And we'll just watch this for a little bit. Small boxes go down here to the right, and the tall boxes go up to the left, or to the top of the drawing. And now in here, they have these sensors, and you can position sensors wherever you want. And so the idea going forward was you can save these scenes and you can build them with various piece parts, is to make scenes where some of the students actually have to position sensors to get them to do what they want. And you can also position, like right now we have some just through beam sensors, and there's retroreflective sensor you can see right here to tell you when the box is transitioned from the diverter onto the output conveyor. And actually, when it makes that transition right there through that retro reflector is when it turns this conveyor on. And then when it passes through the remover thing is when it turns this conveyor off. So these sensors control when the PLC is turning things on and off. And we can set it up so that we can put dark palettes and light palettes, and then you'd have to use a diffuse type sensor to determine whether it goes right or left. It doesn't have to be a high box or a tall box. And there can be different sensors to perform different functions. And that would be a really good idea for trying to do something for Capstone. All we need to do is figure out how to create our own scenes, and we're good to go. So that's a quick look at the factory I/O with our PLCs, and now integrated with our new toy, the WonderWare system.